subject is a subject that many people don't want to talk about. But one of the motivations that I have is a friend. I had a conversation with a friend today about someone close to them that passed away. And even previous to that, I had been thinking about doing an episode on death and what might occur after we go. Now, just because I can do astral projection doesn't mean that I know what happens after we die. And this may have been, it's interesting, I may have actually said this in at least a few episodes that I don't claim to know exactly what happens after we die. I'm simply getting a glimpse into what may or may not happen after we go. And the reason why I say it this way is because when I leave my body, I am still attached to it. So I am still a living being. I remember asking a being once. I remember I had a contact with a being, and I looked at this being and I said, "Can you tell?" And actually, I asked the being a question. I said, "Can you tell that I have a body, that I'm still alive?" And this being looked at me and said, no, they couldn't tell the difference. So at that point, I had thought to myself, interesting. Well, when you're out there, you look just like everybody else. But the reality is that you are still attached to that body. And because of this, your mind is at work and trying to figure out really what's going on. Now, the mind is an incredible thing because it's able to get us through life. It's there when we're working to assist us. It's there when we are dealing with our families, with our friends. It's a very practical thing, and it filters out all the things that aren't necessary and keeps those things that are important to us right there for us. But the thing is that the mind isn't necessarily equipped to cope with what happens out there in the astral plane. There have been so many things that I've seen where I just sit in amazement and think, I don't understand this. I don't get this. And really what it is, I believe, is the mind trying to analyze and go, well, what is this thing? I have to figure this thing out, because in life, that's what it does. It's trying to figure out and solve problems. And when you're in the astral plane, well, at least with me, my mind is still operating. And so my mind is peeking up in there and saying, wait a minute, I don't get this. Wait a minute, what is this? Why is this happening? And so that's really, truly what it's doing. And the reason why I'm talking about the mind here and with death is when we die, we no longer have the mind to try and analyze things anymore. The mind is gone with basically the body. That's it. We have spirit and we have energy. We are a consciousness, but that thing that got us through every day is gone. And now we are just, as I said, pure energy. What is that all about? You ever, I don't know. I've thought about that. I've thought, how different are things going to look at that point without the mind to kind of filter things and make sense of things for us in our bodies? What is that beyond going to look like? And it's interesting to me because at times it's actually frightened me, I think. As strange as that might sound, I'm just being honest. Because I think to myself, will it look really that different than what it looks like right now? And I'm certainly it will. Certainly it will. Because we do things, our mind does things to help us to understand things all the time. You know, it's interesting. I want to use an example that I've already talked about from one of my previous episodes where at one point I was being chased by these kids, and they were chasing me down this hallway, and then I was kind of fleeing from them, and then I saw some other kids coming the other direction, and then I stepped back through a wall, and then a girl had come through, and she'd simply asked me if I could heal her. Now, I don't know if these were actually kids that were coming after me. I don't know that I was in an actual hallway. These things may have been a construct of my mind, and my mind, with my mind using it as a way to understand what was happening. By the way, you may not have seen kids or a hallway. You may have seen something completely different if it was you having that out of body experience. And that is simply because your experiences in life are different, and your mind might interpret things differently. Another thought that I've had, and another thing that I've contemplated ever since I was really small, was the idea of going on forever. And I don't know, that concept frightened me when I was young. And I'm not sure why. What that means, that it would scare me a bit that we go on forever, because I think from my perspective as a human being right now, I think, what is that all about? I mean, I know we have a lifespan here, and then that's it. We go on. Our time is limited. But when we're out there, it is forever. And what does that mean? I want to share a quick story with you. I had an experience years ago where I was out of my body, and I asked one of my guides, I think I asked them something. I don't remember in the exact form that I asked them in. It was something about what is the true nature of who we are. And suddenly I saw myself copied an infinite number of times. Like, I don't know, if you could see yourself suddenly appear, like, I don't know, countless cells, countless like copies of you everywhere. And that's what it seemed like. It was like this sudden thing. And as I was looking at this, I understood that what my guide was telling me is that we are infinite. We are infinite. And we exist in an infinite number of realities simultaneously. This stuff for me is just bewildering. It's just crazy to think about that. And that perhaps when we go, when we pass, we understand all of that suddenly. All of those beings that are us in all of those different worlds. And suddenly we know and we understand everything. It is an interesting thought. And, I didn't want to make this episode too long about death. I mean, for me, I've always been an advocate of just, living your life. And, we're going to go at some point, and when we go, it's going to happen, and that's it. But that to make the best out of what you have now and to live in the moment. Another reason why I say this is because, for those of you who have listened to my episodes on my accident, you know that I realized that life can turn on a dime, and suddenly you could be fighting for your life, so that you do everything you possibly can. I don't believe in bucket lists or any of those other things. That, you know, you live in the moment. If there's something you want to do, please do it. So live your life. But in regards to what happens afterwards, it is a mystery to me. It is. Though I do believe that I've had a glimpse into it. And that, at least for that, I think, wow, it is going to be extraordinary, whatever it is. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on another journey with me. And until next time, until the next episode, take care.